I was enjoying it so much. That was so good.
Okay, Dan, way to go. Okay, it's fun, right? It's a great way to just start. This is how we start. We need to start with joy. Oh, I am so happy, Baiba, to be with you. And here's the thing. I don't know if everybody knows who you are or anything about you. So what I want to do is just pause and say, can you share a little bit of who you are, what's on your heart, where you're at? Because I think that's important because people assume, oh, everybody who we're interviewing on the show is in the United States. And that's not true. And I think it's nice to just shout out your community and your home. So I'm going to pass it over to you and share whatever you want to share in the next few moments so people could have a better base understanding of who you are.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. Well, listen, thank you so much for inviting me here. We've been having, a number of conversations in the background, so it's great to kind of like share an actual real life stage with you. It's such a pleasure and honor. Thank you. And yeah, thank you for everyone who's here. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you might be. It's evening for me, 8:30 in the evening, because I'm in Latvia right now. I've just arrived here to see my family because I spent the past kind of 6-7 months in Spain. So yeah, I always loved coming back to Northern Europe in the summer because winters are a little bit too harsh for my liking. But those who might not know me yet, my name is Baiba Žiga. I am a workplace coach strategist. I am a leadership coach, and I work with all kinds of organizations from large household names and big brands all the way to scale-ups, to startups, to NGOs and government institutions. And the core of the work is always about who is thriving in this culture and who is burning out in this culture, and why so, what's the gap, and how can we address it. So it's all about the culture, it's all about the leadership, it's all about what do we have here, what do we lack here, and how do we create the appropriate interventions to bridge that gap or bridge that cleavage. So that's me. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. What I love about you is you're intercontinental. So there's a lot of people that I know that they do the work, I'm doing the work in this one place or just in the United States. And your work with the organizations that you have worked with have been literally across the world, which is a beauty in itself. And I know we were just talking about just the international travel of going back and forth with staying here for 2 weeks and then having to fly out of the United States and over to the UK, which is, a lot on one's being. And thank you. Thank you, Dan. Thank you.
Thank you so much for honoring my land. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, that's important, right? It's important for people to know because a lot of times we'll say different names of where people call home, and yet we aren't familiar with where the home is anywhere on the map. So appreciate you, Dan. Appreciate you. Okay, so let's talk about this. Let's talk about home. Let's talk about healing. Let's talk about equity of going into all of these spaces that are burnt out and not thriving or surviving. And I want to pause to say, where do you want to go? Because this is so broad especially
Mm.
internationally. And there's a lot of themes because we've talked about the themes across the world in human beings or in organizations. So I know you and I know this. However, I want to see where you would like to take it because our conversations expand hours and hours, and there's so much that there's so much that we could talk
They
about,
do.
but we only have 30 minutes
Mm.
to talk and share. So what do you think would be most impactful and is calling to your heart the most?
Oh, you're absolutely right. There's so much, so many kind of like routes and ways that we can take with this. I love that you just talked about, where is home? That's a huge topic, and that's something very, very close to my heart. But then I was also thinking that we had this beautiful conversation not too long ago, where we were sharing with each other our experiences working in organizations, being consultants and or coaches or whatever, and working with organizations, and yeah, just the sheer impact of that on one's well-being, on our well-being,
Mhm.
and just how we navigated that, and the fact that we always love to share a win. We always love to talk about the shiny things,
Yeah.
the certifications, the promotions, the wins, the awards. But also there is a huge part of all that process is very, very messy. It
Mhm.
is traumatic. It can be traumatic. It shouldn't be, but it can, and it is traumatic. And unfortunately, we often connect to that only when it's too late.
Yeah.
And when we are already
Mhm.
burnt out, when we are, in the middle of depression, when we need to take time out. And something that I'm doing right now, as you know, is creating space for a very intentional sabbatical.
Mhm.
Thankfully, this time round, it is not coming from a space of a necessity and, I'm burnt out and I can't take it anymore and I need to go. But it has come through an organic spring cleaning, I will call
Mhm.
it, that I have been doing this year. And it has been new to me in the way that I'm approaching and doing it now. But it has been very, very authentic, because
Mhm.
as one of the things I also posted this morning about the fact that the theme for my 2023 is alignment. So I have had to stay very true to myself, to what alignment means to me, what it looks like, and how am I actually living up to it. That I'm not just talking
Mhm.
about it, that I'm not just preaching about it, that I'm just posting about it, to everyone else to do it, but how am I keeping myself accountable to it? And what does that look like for me? So everything that, I talk about, that I post, is very, usually comes from a very real journey, a very
Yeah.
real personal journey that I'm going through. So yeah, I don't know how you feel about it, whether, you feel that there is a thread that we can pick up, up and talk about here.
I think you said so many things, right? Just in that few moments. The reality is with what you said is your theme, alignment. We often, because we're saying, but we have to help this organization. We have
Mm.
to fix and build. What about this next accomplishment? Because we're focusing on the future instead of the present moment right now. And sometimes we push ourselves so much that then some people are left completely stressed out, surviving, and some of them literally are tapping out because they're so burnt out that they can't even carry on. They're not saying, hey, I'm going to take a sabbatical while I'm well. It's my wellness has been impacted. Therefore, I have a forced sabbatical because I can't even manage to keep going on. However, what I know you've done for your own healing process is exactly that. You're not just saying, do as I say, but do as I do, because you've
Mm.
said and put up boundaries around different relationships, whether that's in the form of contracts, whether that's in the form of friendships, whether that's in the form of sitting with self, to really say what am I holding of value of myself, and I too am worthy and valuable, and if I don't do these things, then therefore I'm not even owning who I say I am. So I think that's important to note for everyone, because sometimes we keep pushing. I had this thought come in my mind today, and it came in my mind because I had somebody send me an email of when could we talk? And as a person I'm literally going to be working with in June. And right now I'm at the point where I don't even have time for myself to just sit and be. So I am such a people pleaser sometimes that I will just create the space that I had possibly intended for myself, that I don't even have a lot of those moments, and give it to somebody else at the expense of my own wellness. So I finally like had to put my boundaries up and say, well, I could talk to you on Saturday, which is my daughter's birthday celebration, while I'm at the birth, like that's what I have. I don't have it to give right now. And they're like, well, what about Monday? I'm like, no, I'm not, because it's the holiday here and I want that time off. I don't want to have to work. So I said it's Tuesday, and I know some people are looking at me like, what do you mean it's Wednesday and the soonest day that you could talk is Tuesday? But we have to start doing that. If that's the soonest day, why are we trying to compact and Gumby and squeeze in things that either aren't in alignment, or you don't have time for, or aren't bringing you joy, or are causing discomfort and dis-ease? I think that's what a lot of us are sitting
Mm.
and doing in organizations and with ourselves.
Yep. Yes to everything that you've said. Yes, to everything that you've said. And, talking about alignment, and you're absolutely right. We often explore, well, I'm going to take that back. We sometimes explore how aligned our relationships are, be it personal or business
Mhm.
how aligned our friendships are, and the last thing that we look at is how aligned are we ourselves within our own
Yep.
energy, within our own environment, within our own element. And actually, as you were talking, what came to me, and one of the things that I have been thinking about is also, where is this stemming from?
Mhm.
This kind of like urge to relentlessly go until we hit the wall, and only then we
Yeah.
call quits, because quits is a dirty word. It's a
Mhm.
dirty action, and it's kind of because we are a failure, we are closing something down, we are stepping away from something, we're turning our back to something. So we are the bad ones because we've either hurt someone, or we are the failure because we have to close a door. And it was very funny because when, literally, I think it was last week or a couple of weeks ago, when we were talking about this, the same day, and I don't know how I manifested this, a friend of mine, Shapi Agbalusi, who's absolutely amazing, sent out a newsletter, and the newsletter was literally titled "I Quit." Right. And I'm going to just read a couple of sentences from it that
Okay.
really resonated with me. And this is kind of like in the middle of his newsletter, and he said, in our society, we are often inundated with the prevailing mantra of never give up. We are urged to
Mm.
persist relentlessly, regardless of the obstacles in our path. Yet it is crucial to recognize that sometimes quitting can be the most empowering and transformative decision we can make. We exist in a world that romanticizes the notion of enduring hardships and pushing through adversity.
Mm. Mm.
Right? So so this really made me think about, okay, where this thought is even coming from. How
Yeah.
have I internalized that I can't quit, or that
Yeah.
quitting is something negative? And this
Right.
also brings me right, and this also brings me back to another kind of like video that I saw on Instagram, and I also reshared it on LinkedIn. And it said, and it kind of like dissected the notion of no pain, no gain, which
Yes.
again, right, which conditions us to think that anything worth having needs to come through a path of adversity and hardships and burnout. So even when we have our asshole manager, like micromanaging us, that we're, we are receiving or dodging microaggressions right, left, and center every single day, we are saying, but that comes with this role. This is like the bonus of this role. And I won't be worth the promotion unless I endure this.
Right. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. I was literally just having a conversation earlier this morning, okay, with a friend.
Mm-hmm.
And I get a lot of downloads and just things that come into my space, my mind, when I'm in the shower or sitting in more silence, okay? And one of the things, I actually created this quote. I'll have to send it to you. I didn't put it out yet, but the quote was, "It is what it is till it's not." Okay, let me repeat this again, because this is what I came up with and I created it because this is actually the reality. I said it is what it is till it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem with humanity, with humans, is we have created so many like constructs and programmings and labels, and we believe them because what? Guess what? And while everybody else is doing it, that's the norm. And we don't then think, what if this isn't the norm? Is pain, literally living through pain and having to go to a workspace with friends, a community where you, in order to survive, are going to need to heal every day. To me, I don't want that to be a norm. I don't want your impact, my impact, anybody, the world's impact to be my wellness. 5, 10, 15 years automatically is a given, shaved off my life because of all of this stuff that we think is normal and is normalized.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Till it's not. So the question is, when are we going to be, it's not? Who's standing up
Mm-hmm.
and raising their hand and saying, like you did, you know what? These aren't in alignment with me. I am not going to endure this. And I am quitting. Because my being, my humanity, my wellness is worth more than the badge of I did it.
Oh, you got to say that again.
Your being, your wellness, your humanity is worth more than the badge of putting on whatever. I did it.
That part.
Yeah, you did it at the cost of your survival. You did it at the cost of the unconditional love that all these people behind the scenes are giving you. You did it at the cost of shaving 10 years off your life. But you did it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the concept of, can somebody please just listen to us? Can we just sit down and have an honest conversation of, it is what it is till it's not. It's kind of like 2020 when George Floyd happened. Everybody's like, it's not. No, but it your reality was, it is what it is, until it wasn't. And 2020 for a lot of people was, it wasn't. That was the time. It wasn't that. So how
Mm-hmm.
many unveilings do we need to do for our minds, for our hearts, for us to truly come back home and say, I deserve the right to be in alignment, like you said, all the time, not just for a week on vacation, not just during the weekends, not just at night when you're not in the organization that you cry possibly going to before you even have to get there.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the question I have. Where
Mm-hmm.
what are you thinking? What's coming on your heart and in your mind of this? Because this is, we could talk days about this.
I mean, you could write a book about this, absolutely. Maybe we should explore that.
right?
But I think also people love the buzzword. They love the
Mhm.
buzzword of alignment. But are you prepared to also go through the journey that it takes to actually be in alignment? Because
Mm,
it's nice for me to, at the beginning of the year, do the year compass and answer one of
mm,
the questions, what's your theme for this year? And I just put alignment. That's the easy part. That's the easy part. Putting the pen to the paper. But then when we have, and especially when we have never seen alignment before, we've never seen alignment before within our own lives, nor in our perhaps family lives, in our parents' lives. No one has modeled it to us. Same as boundaries. Many of us, myself including, are learning boundaries in our 30s, right? And because of that lack of boundaries for already 30 years or 20 years, or maybe even more than that, that comes with a lot of baggage, with a lot of trauma, with a lot of anxiety, with
mhm,
a lot of, all of this that we have to unpack. And that work, because before we can be aligned, or whatever buzzword we've picked for ourselves, there is a lot of work to do. There's a lot of unlearning to do.
mhm,
And that unlearning, about those things that we've just talked about, the things that we have internalized and normalized. No pain, no gain. It is what it is. It just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? And we say it without even thinking about it, and we normalize it, we internalize it, and we traumatize ourselves.
mm,
And so and so the work is with a lot of unlearning. And it's interesting because also in the DI work, right, when we go into organizations, or when we work with leaders, one of the first things we say is, there's a lot for you to unlearn. That
mhm,
part is true. But then the question also is, how much unlearning have we done as consultants? And how much of that journey have we gone through, so that we can support the organizations or individuals or our families that we are part of? And that part is uncomfortable, that part
mhm,
is unpleasant, it's messy, it's complicated, but it's also very, very liberating. And so hence, earlier I said that I've been doing a lot of what I call the great spring cleaning, because that is what it has felt like to me. Because I can't get to my alignment of living in my best energy, living my best life, doing all these like great things, insert the quote.
mhm,
But before I get there, I have to clear out my house from things that don't serve me anymore. And it's also very interesting to actually go back and to the point where we have let that energy, that person, that contract in our lives, and really assess, in what state were we when we
mhm,
let that in. And that also is actually very beautiful to reflect that actually there has been a lot of growth that has happened between that person a year ago or 5 years ago and who I am today, that I can stand
mhm,
here and say, this does not feel good anymore. It was what it was, but it isn't anymore. And that's very
mhm.
powerful and very empowering to say and to do for yourself.
Okay, I agree with 100% of what you said. And here's what I'm going to add.
Hmm.
Yes. And I keep saying to people in workshops, in trainings, in private conversations, we as human beings are emotional beings, yet we're beings that don't want to sit with our emotions. Okay. So for people to raise their hand and be like, yeah, I want to sign up to sit through discomfort and unease and pain and cry for hours and days and weeks so that I can evolve into the being I was always meant to be, but I have to declutter And that means clearing out so much. Is,
Mm.
do I want to sit through the pain to get to the clearing and clean state of me being? That's
Mm.
something a lot of people, right? As much as people want to be like, I want to do my cleaning. Okay. Are you willing to lose relationships? Are you
Mm.
willing to lose or say no to some very lucrative contracts?
Mhm.
There's things that you have to do in order to do what you're saying to do. And a lot of
Mhm.
people, once they hit a certain threshold of discomfort, they're like tapping out.
Yeah.
They're not Nike anymore. They don't want to stand in the just do it, right? It's just do it till
Mhm.
it's too painful. That's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And also the things that we've talked about, what are you prepared to lose, right?
Yep.
Also, that is kind of the easy part, kind of like
Mhm.
clearing out our little black book, our contacts or whatever. That is hard, and yet
Mhm.
it's easy compared to the sitting that we need to do with ourselves. And that is the most uncomfortable part. And regardless of how many quote unquote spring cleanings you're going to do and clear things out, unless and until you are prepared and willing and open to sit with yourself,
Mhm.
unfortunately nothing will change. It will just be another season of the same or similar same stuff.
Yep.
And you again, a year to 5, you're going to again be in a situation where you have to clear out the house. And it is healthy to do that, and
Mhm.
regardless, it is healthy to do that. But the question is, whether are you in the cycle, in the same washing machine process time and time again, or whether you're evolving, and each clear out is a sign of evolution.
Yeah.
And that's the difference.
Now here's what it is until it's not, right? Moment.
Hmm.
We know what truth is. Impermanence is a guarantee of humans. Everything is constantly changing.
Hmm.
It's how much evolution, the change is happening anyway. So, how much change are you going to say I'm going to embody to truly evolve? That's the question. And nobody's going to be able to do it except for you. As
Mm.
much as right, I would love to drag human I would love to drag humanity. I want to drag you across the finish line. I do.
Mm.
Of getting to this state of highness, limitlessness. Oh my gosh, let me clear my lenses of what I thought it was and it really isn't. And we can't take people there. I can't take you there. I can guide. I can ask all the questions we want as coaches. And even when we go in as consultants to say, do this, right? If you choose not to do it and create the system and make it sustainable long after we leave, it will not be.
And that is the thing, right? If you are, let's say, if you're a hoarder, the fact that someone comes and clears out your house doesn't change your habit. I'll come back a year later and you'll have, other crap all around you. It's about, changing the habit. Why are you hoarding in the first place?
Getting to the root that we keep saying. I
Yeah,
can't
get
say
to
this
the
all the
root.
time. The get to the root that bears the fruit. If you can't, and as
Mm.
doctors, I feel like medicine does this a lot of times too. You're treating the symptoms.
Yeah.
We could do that all we want. Go ahead and treat the symptoms. The
Hmm.
symptoms are not going to get at what the root of the cause is of why that
Hmm.
behavior is the way it is. If you can't get to that, then you will stay very similar to what you were.
Mm.
Mm.
And this is very
So much.
real. This is very real because as business owners, as quote unquote professionals, right? The LinkedIn community,
Mhm.
we stay acutely aware to the latest technology. AI is coming in, the metaverse is here. What does that mean for me? We stay acutely aware of how the pandemic has changed our lives and how it has changed our business.
Mhm.
We stay acutely aware how our customer needs have changed in the process and how we need to respond to that. But are we extending the same level of acute awareness to ourselves as
Mhm.
creators, as business owners, of what we need and how we have changed? And
Yeah.
this question was what prompted me to sign up to the sabbatical, because I was like, okay, hold on a second. I've stepped into my 30s. Have I really sat down and really thought about, because it's a big thing, right? Have I
Mhm.
sat down and thought about what does that mean for me?
Yep.
And what of my 20s baggage do I need to drop, see it, acknowledge it, drop it before
Yep.
I enter the next gate, the next portal or whatever it is. And I realized that I can stay in the same cycle and keep on producing and keep on talking and keep on
Yep.
just evolving my products and stuff, but actually it's already starting to grind on me. And the first thing that, at least for me, how I can tell that something is misaligned and doesn't feel good anymore, is I lose joy. I
Mhm.
lose joy for the product, the service, something that I'm doing for my clients. And I lose joy also in my life.
Yep.
And I kind of like sat down and I was like, you know what? I don't remember the last time when I really belly laughed. And that really
Mm.
hit me. And I was like, hold on a second. And that's a symptom, right? I could have just gone
Yep.
to a stand-up comedy and belly laughed, but I was like, okay, hold on a second, there's something here.
Mhm.
And it came down to that joy actually was attached to something much deeper and something else. I needed to sit with myself
Yep.
and really understand what is the person, not persona, the person that I need
Yep.
to be before I enter that next, portal, or whatever, before I receive the blessings that I have been asking for. Because this is again, the thing when we, in our prayer, in our meditation, in our manifestation, in our affirmations, whatever, right? We say, God,
Yep.
give me that big client, land $1 million on my lap, open that door, extend the path. But the real question is, if that client, if that $1 million, if that whatever dropped on your lap, are you ready to receive
That's
it?
right. That's right.
Are you ready for the responsibility that comes with that? Or is that
Mhm.
going to be metaphorical or literal death of you?
Yep. And
Is there?
I think about that, what you're saying, are you ready to receive it? I think of these trees in
Mm-hmm,
the back. You have to be so unshakable,
mm-hmm,
like these trees in the background, and standing in who you are, your values, your beliefs, that you don't waver. Any storm that comes
mm-hmm,
to these trees, you don't see them falling over. Nope. They are still standing pridefully, radiantly as themselves. And how many people will do that when they do, right? You're receiving what you had asked for. Maybe a storm that you hadn't expected is coming in. Are you wavering? Or are you still standing in who you are projecting out to other people as you
mm-hmm.
are? But are you? So much. Okay. So I know we're at time and it's like, where did it go? Where did it go? See, we could talk for hours. Okay. Now, in
Yes.
this, what I want to say before we leave is you said so many beautiful things of how can we help heal ourselves? One is stop and pause and ask yourself a few questions of, Who
Yeah.
am I? And am I showing up for that who I say I am, persona wise to other people in
Hmm.
me too? Okay. If you have space and
Hmm.
time, sabbatical. If you don't, you could still take moments of time to just be with yourself. I think
Hmm.
another process, the healing that you are saying is, what are you doing? Are you doing prayer? Are you doing meditation? What are you doing to sit in silence and being with just you? Healing is also knowing, taking stock in what is aligned and not aligned to you. But you can't take stock in what's aligned and not aligned until you know who you are. To say
Hmm.
these are not, these are not in line or these are in line. So what is there anything else that I missed that you're saying, future, I want to share this with the audience of this was a part of my healing journey, and things that you think will be beneficial to anybody out there that you hadn't said or I didn't say as a recap?
I think you've beautifully articulated and summed it up. If anything, another thing I would say is that this is a never ending, never finished journey. And you always got to do it. You can't just kind of like clear your house once. You always will have to do it.
Mhm.
But the only thing that I don't want to say guarantee, but I can say that it does get easier. It does get easier with time. The process doesn't get easier because it's always
Yeah.
unpleasant saying goodbye and cutting ties and walking away because we always are battling those again, internalized notions. But at least the process is more familiar to us, and we have more faith that this is part of the process and there is something better waiting on the other side. And that faith really helps getting through that process. But that faith, I would say, is also built in the process and built within the process. So you do have to get through it.
Yeah. A faith in something you can't often use your senses for. You might not be able to see it. You might not be able to
Mm,
touch it. You have to believe, right? It's a
it's a
belief in your
knowing.
heart. It's a knowing, it's a
It's the
belief that yes.
knowing. Hmm.
This has been so good.
Oh,
I want to say so many thank yous and hugs and love to you. I hope we will talk again, but I hope that you
we'll
enjoy this
talk
time with
again.
your family, and yourself, because you
Mhm.
deserve it. And I'm glad you actually stopped to say, hold on, I need to pause and I need to go slow so that I can go faster whenever I need to. Because I think
Mhm.
there's a lot of people that are just on the wheel and they don't do it. So thank you for even being present enough to say, okay, I need to do this for me.
Listen, thank you. Thank you for having these conversations. Thank you for creating space to have these conversations and for bringing these conversations to a wide audience. Because again, these are conversations that we are often having, and we've been having a lot of these conversations
Yeah.
behind closed doors in different forums. But, yeah, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the fact that not everything is as the avatar online or as a persona online
Yeah.
tells and shows. There are real people with real processes, with real cyclical and seasonal processes behind closed doors. But yeah, it takes something to really stand in that and get through the storm. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. All right, Dan, I thank you so much. I appreciate you. So highlighting Pitchfork. If you don't know who Pitchfork is, you should go check it out. They're doing wonderful things. So the spotlight for me is free registration, and I'll drop the link. It is something that is very near and dear to my heart. I'm going to be a part of this beautiful session for Pre-Summer Institute that is happening on Thursday, and it's all day long. The plus part about this, a lot of the speaking engagements that I have are either private or you have to pay. This one is 100% free. So even if you come for one, I don't even care if you want to come see me. There are awesome speakers on here for you to sit with yourself, especially in regards to equity and especially in regards to equity in education. And then this evening, I am going to be on Love and Light tonight through Word Radio. So if you want to come and listen, or if you want to call in and ask me a question, please do. Dan, sending you so much love. We will see everyone next week.